their names and accomplishments are going to draw on the screen. Thank you. So next it's Kristen Larson, our treasurer. So there was an ongoing joke between the treasurer and secretary position that we're going to flip them some year. So we'll have Chris as a treasurer and Bob as a secretary. Use the handheld. Yeah. We decided against it this year, but don't be surprised for the future.
And my platform was that all the money would go for rabbit rescue instead of variable stars, so you might protest that. All right, good morning, everyone. So it is my pleasure to give you the recap of the high points of last year's 2020 AAVSO membership meeting, which was held on November 14th. It was called to order over Zoom at 11:03 a.m. Stella welcomed everyone and explained how to use the technology to engage with the speakers and other attendees. Gordon welcomed everyone and explained the overview of the meeting. Item 1, strategic plan. Gordon and Stella explained the outcomes of the strategic planning that had been ongoing over the past 2 years. Two major questions frame the discussion. Is the AAVSO still relevant in the 21st century, and is our mission clear? The answer to the first question is a resounding yes, based on the number of targets and increased requests from professionals for follow-ups. There are increased opportunities for amateurs to be involved in research. The plan was developed by the board with input from the staff, the Harvard Business School Community Action Program, and members and professionals. And 5 major areas of strategic planning were identified: IT, marketing, mission, finances, volunteers, and governance. 3 fundamental ideas guided this work: high membership satisfaction, increased organization impact, and long-term financial stability. Assessing success through measurable metrics is also important. The main goals of the strategic plan were: 1, advancing science; 2, growing membership and build a vibrant association with an engaged community; 3, maintaining and enhancing our website and IT tools; 4, strengthening our governance; and 5, focusing on long-term financial stability. The floor was opened for questions and comments at this point. In response to a question, the organization understands that it needs to more effectively market itself internationally. And in response to a comment, the organization is committed to continuing to provide free webinars. Item 2, Treasurer Robert Stevens presented a financial report for the year ending September 30th, 2020. This was a preliminary report as the fiscal year ended 6 weeks before. At the end of September 2020, the AAVSO had about $262,000 in cash and $12.2 million in investments. This was lower than the same time the previous year because of a drop in the stock market. A question was asked how we could move the needle in terms of the endowment. Bringing down the withdrawal and increasing the size of the endowment itself will lead to stability. It was noted that individuals can use various means to take a tax benefit for donations. Please consult with your tax advisor. It was noted that AAVSO is a charity for Amazon Smile, although it is not a major resource, and members are welcome to use Facebook to run birthday donations. Item 3, AAVSO Editor-in-Chief Nancy Morrison presented on progress at the journal. It is a fully dual anonymous referee journal, and there is a student-friendly refereeing. It is free of author charges for members, and it is open access to read. Authors include a mix of professionals, amateurs, and students. It was noted that a mentoring program extends on writing papers for the journal. Authors are also encouraged to post their preprints on archive. Item 4, additional items of business. Stella asked for a moment of silence for all we had lost that year. Stella thanked those who put together the spectroscopy and data mining workshops for the meeting, as well as the staff members, volunteers, and board members. Stella announced that the members of the Harvard University Community Action Program have been awarded the Director's Award. Gordon announced the election results for 2020. Elected to the board were Karen Kinamuchi, John Briggs, Ken Hudson, Bob Buckheim. He noted that the officers are the same for this year. 2 bylaws changes were approved. One was a revised process for membership approval of bylaws updates. The other was a change in the board term from 2 to 3 years, with a corresponding term limit to 2 terms. Respectfully submitted, Chris Larson, Secretary.
Thank you very much. Bob, you want to give the Treasurer's report?
Okay, I hope you all remember those numbers. We're going to be using them for comparison purposes, and there will be a quiz at the end. Okay, and I hope you've had your requisite coffee. I have an hour, right, Gordon? 2 hours? Okay, great, because I can talk for 2 hours about numbers. The Treasurer's report. Our fiscal year end is September, just, 5 weeks ago. And so, again, these numbers are preliminary because the audit is not going to start for another month. And the numbers will probably shift by a few thousand one direction or the other, well within the error bars in scientific terms here. So what we can see is this year, the middle column is the 2021 results. We got the right column is there for comparative purposes. And we have about $400,000 cash in the bank. In addition, you can see that our investments are $14.4 million, a $2.1 million increase from the year before, thanks to the stock market, and we'll get into that in more detail in a bit. We have a few other assets. Whoops. Oh, I see what's going on. Building cost basis, $1.1 million. I think pretty much everybody knows that it's been sold. The sale is pending. It's actually going to sell for about $3.1 something million, which we're adding to the endowment fund for stability, which we'll get to in a moment. Liabilities, we got a few trade payables, accrued payroll taxes, a few other things. So what you can see is our equity is $15.8 million, a substantial recovery from the year before. That's divided into some restricted funds and into unrestricted funds. So this is what we call a balance sheet for those running a small business. Think of it as a snapshot in time of our assets and liabilities. What happened over the let me show you a pie chart. Since we have scientists, we all love pie charts and other charts. This is the breakout of our assets. I know you can't read this on the screen, but the investments comprise 90% plus of all of our assets, and everything else is the building. So this is kind of like the solar system, which is loosely defined as the sun, Jupiter, and a bunch of rubble. Okay, so this is what happened over the 12-month period of time, and since we as scientists like to divide things in categories, I've done so here. Again, the rightmost column is the previous year for comparative purposes. Second from the right is the total for the current year, and the 3 middle columns are simply dividing that total into 3 categories, one of which is our endowment fund. We got some donor restricted funds like the Mayo Maddie Fund and AAVSO Net, and then we got everything else is what we live upon our operating fund. So you can see what stayed in the endowment fund is $2.1 million recovery, and not just a recovery. As of yesterday, we hit an all-time high. Just like the stock market. So we had $2.1 million stay there, and then we transferred $624,000, second row from the top, over into the operating fund, because that's what we live upon. You can see in the operating fund is the one we usually like to focus on. Everything else, $400,000, that's our dues, that's various little programs, that's meetings, income and stuff, and then $600,000. And in recent years, as typical, we bring in about $1 million in revenues. and we spend about $1 million in expenses. This is designed to break even, but you'll notice for the current year, if you get all the way to the bottom line down there in the middle column, we actually had $117,879 more revenues than expenses. It wasn't designed that way, but due to the pandemic, we didn't spend some money that we had anticipated spending on such things as meeting and travel, a few office expenses, and so on, since mostly everybody was operating from home. But you can see that personnel expenses is our largest share, as always, a bit over $500,000. The second is the contract services. That's to maintain our software, cloud presence, and all that other stuff. And then everything else, again, is the riffraff. So here's the requisite pie charts of the revenues. Again, 60%, the big green slice, is what we transfer over from the endowment fund. And then we got some dues, that's the blue slice, and some contributions. We ran a successful annual campaign last year, and so on. One of the goals as recommended by the CAP team is to increase the other revenues so we're not as reliant upon the endowment fund. In fact, the big goal, which we're about to get to, is the percentage that we've been withdrawing from the endowment fund. As many of you recall, we've been taking more out than is healthy to take out. In fact, for a while there, our withdrawals exceeded 5%, which isn't what anybody wanted. And I can report that for the budget we created for the next fiscal year, along with the recovery of the stock market, we are anticipating drawing out the 4% goal that we had all desired to get to. Now, a few small little things may go wrong. Get that. You have a few unexpected things, but we are basically right to where we want it to be for a healthy financial situation. The requisite pie chart for expenses, as you can see, personnel expenses, which is salaries and all the related employee benefits and taxes and everything else that goes along with that, is well over 50%, almost 60%. Contract services, again, our software people and everything else, is the next biggest chunk. And then everything else is just small. Okay, so let's talk about the investments for a second here. You recall that it was $14.4 million as of September 30th, 5 weeks ago. Part of the reason it was $14.4 million is in the last week of the year, the federal government, their fiscal year end is also September 30th, and that's always the week that politics get played. So there was a lot of threats going on in Washington, and we're going to shut down the government and this and that always spooks the stock market. So in the last 5 days of the year, the stock market lost 5%. This is typical. Every year it always loses 5% right at the end of September. And guess what? Within 2 weeks' time after it was all settled, we gained the 5% back and then some. So we have actually gone up from that point in time like $700,000, $600-700. It's quite amazing. So where we're at in our portfolio, these numbers are way too small for anybody to read, but I'll loosely say that our portfolio is balanced to be 70% equities and 30% fixed income. That's when you look at nonprofits, there's a range that you usually consider conservative to aggressive or whatever. We're towards the high end of aggressiveness, but not as high as some. And we always look at it once a year to see, is this the time to pull back, depending upon where the market is, where we are, and everything else. And that discussion will happen in the spring, as it always does. But I will also report that our current investment advisors, who took over about 1.5 years ago, they have outperformed their contemporaries and the market. This report that they gave us when I prepared this was as of the June 30th quarter end, and they had outperformed the market by about 2/3 of a basis point, which is quite nice in relative terms. I just got the new report like 2 days ago. They outperformed the S&P 500 by over a basis point. Do you believe that? That since inception, and in every quarter since then. Now, we all recognize that yesterday's hero is tomorrow's goat, but we will be watching this closely and watching our portfolio balances and everything else. So I can say that this has been a stunningly successful year financially for the AAVSO. We have met our goals and exceeded them, and we're very healthy moving forward. Time for questions. Dave has a question.
For the non-financial people in the room, would you define a basis point, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. A basis point is 1%, basically. So on average, you hope to see the S&P 500 go up by 7 or 8% a year, which it has historically done. We're not expecting that to happen again in the near term because of the healthy recovery. But basically, what you're hoping to do is match the economy and the market as a whole.
So, two questions. One, in gaining that, did they go into risky vehicles, or meaning in a downturn we'll lose a lot, or is it fairly conservative? Second question is, I'm not, and don't take this the wrong way, I'm not second guessing what the board has done in terms of planning to sell. I understand that. What I want to know is, how will the books balance when you have to pay rent? And will it be better or worse? Can you easily explain that for me?
Okay, I hope everybody hear the question. Raise your hand. Okay, good. All right. As to the first question, we were in a riskier portfolio a year and a half ago. That was one of the reasons we decided to change investment advisors. It took them 3 to 6 months to unravel a couple of positions that it turned out that we were in that were not only underperforming but tough to unravel. Now the stuff that we're in is basic bread and butter investments, and so it is not considered a risky portfolio from that perspective at all. By and large, we're invested in the U.S. in the U.S. economy, the U.S. stock market. Okay. In a downturn, we are protected. We also have, as you can see, plenty of cash up there. Once upon a time, we had a goal set that we would have enough cash to go 18 months into a substantial downturn, and that is basically largely the case still. So we will not be forced to sell anything into a downturn, but if we had a significant one like the Great Recession again, well, we would clearly make some adjustments as an organization to be able to stretch our cash out further, but we will be well positioned, well protected, better than most. Okay, as to your second question, will having to pay rent be a better situation if we put the building into the stock market basically than not? Yes, that was the whole purpose and predication. It was extremely studied by CAP and by us, and of course the proof will obviously be in the pudding. We have not signed a lease, and partly because we're still trying to figure out in the new reality just how much square footage that we're going to need going forward. But the bottom line is we considered all of the costs, the rent, the additional utilities, the saving on repair bills, but other repair bills that we may become responsible for. As you know, you often have to pay for HVAC in a rental situation and a few other things. And everywhere we pencil it out, we're better off from that scenario. That's the whole reason for having done it in the first place. We must have more questions. These are exciting times.
I have 2 questions online. We'll start with Richard Glassner. Is there a goal to have the endowment interest and dividends approach the 4% withdrawal rate?
Well, when you look at your endowment, it is not just interest and dividends, it's market growth. You occasionally, with growth in various equities, you will sell some of them off to provide your cash flow. If you design your portfolio so that only interest and dividends cover your cash flow, then you may not be capturing the growth in the market itself. So our interest and dividends at this point in time probably provide about 2/3 of our necessary actual cash flow, and the rest of it is coming from growth in equities, which we occasionally sell a few to meet our needs. Okay?
Another online question. This is from Dennis Conti. Contract services were 24% of our expenses. Will this amount continue to be the case? And if so, would it be better to hire staff to do these functions instead of contractors?
Almost certainly contract services will continue to be a very large percentage of our budget. Half of that alone is coming from our software contractors that provide our support and cloud services and everything else. And then some of the rest of it for the journal and things. In today's reality, you contract for specialists that is too expensive for you to hire and provide benefits for, just simply because they can do it much more efficiently than you can. So it's a cost-saving measure to hire the specialty firms that you need rather than to bring them on and staff, and then you have to provide support services like office space and things like that to go along with it. Oh, you got it? Okay.
Bob, one of the perks I would have thought for the director is that they had housing. That's going to go away. Has anybody considered that in terms of ultimately, at some point, a future director being hired?
Absolutely, we considered that, and the director's compensation will be adjusted as such because they're not receiving housing. To put it delicately, providing housing to any individual is, in almost every circumstance that you can think of, a taxable event. So we're trying to avoid that in the future. Wow, I either explain things great or everybody's asleep. Which is it?
Well, as always, you explained very well. So perhaps we can move on. You know something? The one person I know who can actually say 5% downturn in the stock market with a straight face without panicking is Bob Stevens. So
I'm sure everybody watches their 401ks and such, and you get excited about 5% downturn until you realize it happens on average 2 or 3 times a year, and then always recovers within a couple months. It's if you react to it, that's the mistake. It's the 10% downturn that you think about, and that happens every couple years or so, and then the 20% downturn, which usually indicates a recession that you really need to think about.
Yeah, wonderful. If there are no more questions, let's go to the editor-in-chief's presentation. Thank you, Bob. Come on. Just this button. Nothing else.
Forward button.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Good morning, one and all, and it's great to be here. I hope that's not too illegible. Just as a recap, what our journal covers is any aspect of variable stars, including research, data collection, and archiving. Solar astronomy, principally the sun is a variable star, but then also history, education. What have I left out? And occasionally, we have a review article. That's something that everybody, I hope, knows. I wanted to say that virtually all, and maybe even indeed all, of the content I heard yesterday is material that I hope will be eventually submitted to the AAVSO. Some of it I know already has been submitted. Okay, I wanted to make some report on progress on the goals that were established in the strategic plan. One of the goals for the journal was to expand the pool of both authors and referees. I haven't been keeping good track of authors, but I will be doing that going forward, and I know that during the past volume, well, the first half of the current year, which means the first half of volume 49, we had 69 distinct unique authors. Volume 49, I should say, came out in the middle of the current year. That is volume 49, number 1, Volume 49, number 2 will come out in the second half of the year. And in case people need to be reminded, each article that is accepted appears on the website very soon after acceptance, and only every 6 months are these articles gathered into an issue. So you don't need to wait for an issue to appear in order to see an article. We encourage authors to make data that they have taken themselves and that are not already archived with the AAVSO or elsewhere, to put them, once they're published, in the journal's own FTP archive. We are trying to make the experience friendlier for authors and for referees. For authors, we often work with them pre-refereeing to ensure things like a well-written and correct title, well-written and complete abstract, so that abstract indices will properly represent what's in the journal. And then finally, things like proper organization and citation lists, and at least acceptable English writing. Referees usually have been putting in very high-quality reports. On occasions where the report needs a little touching up, maybe the wording rephrased to be a little bit more tactful relative to the author, we do that in consultation with the referee. And here, I want to thank the people who are doing our refereeing. They are volunteers. They are contributing their time and their expertise, and almost always doing an excellent job. Currently, there are 125 people who are carrying out this service for us, or have done so at least once in the past 5 years. Okay, here's another one of these graphs that we love. Number of articles per issue. Sorry, this is per, I clicked twice, sorry about that. Articles per volume. Going back to volume 47, number 1, and they are color-coded according to category, research, education, and outreach, and so on. And then in the second graph, there's page count, articles only, not abstracts, and I regret this mistake here. This page count was not 0. It was very similar to the page count in the following issue. Amateur-professional collaborations, how many papers have both amateur and professional authors, where I judge amateur and professional by the affiliation. If the person is affiliated with a university or another institution, then I consider that person to be a professional astronomer. That may not always be accurate, but it's an indication. You're not allowed to wave this thing around, I see. And then I'd like to keep track of how many spectroscopy papers we have. And finally, this is the distribution according to subject matter in 11 categories. And the one really noteworthy feature to track here is the change in content of eclipsing binary papers, which are the first blue coloration. And any other topic of interest you can check out by the color. The color cycle repeats twice, so you have to see whether it's on the left side of the bar or not. Thank you very much, and I'll be very happy to answer questions.
Do you have a breakdown of the number of papers from members versus those from other institutions?
The question, members versus those from, you mean well, virtually everyone who submits, virtually every article has at least one AAVSO member as an author. We collect article charges only from those who are not members, but I have nothing to do with the collection of article charges, I'm pleased to say. So, but the impression I've been given is that we basically don't collect any. So every paper has at least one author. If you mean people who are employed by or affiliated with the AAVSO in some way, I don't have a precise breakdown, but it's in the range of 50-50, if you'll give me the benefit of astrophysical accuracy on that. We get a lot of papers from people who are at universities, and they may be contributing data to the AAVSO, but that's basically the extent of their connection. On the other hand, we would get quite a few from, observing section members, staff, and so on. But that would be interesting to keep track of, and I will put that on my list of things to since we all love to collect data, I'll try to collect data on that.
Nancy, over here. I'm interested generally in your philosophy and perhaps ideas about how to increase our membership in terms of writing and presenting papers, for example, here and in the journal, in terms of trying to entice them to do more. Are we, in fact, are most of our papers from amateurs, number one, or professionals? And do you have any idea of how we might increase the number of papers, even if they're data papers, probably the simplest category you have, so as we can entice more people to be involved in the journal and other things?
As for what I'm actually doing, I guess the first thing to say is that there's tremendous growth in the exoplanet activity. And I think that's going to be a big, it's gone, but that's going to be a big feature of the future, and there's a lot of growth there. One thing that I am doing is actively increasing the pool of referees, because refereeing for our journal will give people an idea of the quality and possibly encourage them to publish here themselves. Those are small numbers, but I think incremental growth is what we probably want. For one thing, if we were to get a huge flood of papers, then our little editorial operation would become overwhelmed. And actually, there have been bursts of submissions during the past year which have caused me to get behind, I'm sorry to say. So if there were huge growth, then system changes would have to be made.
Anyone else? Anything from online?
No, not online.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. Can I have the clicker? Nancy. No, you don't get to keep that. All right, I'm going to leave this with you. Thank you. All right. Hello?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. So let's start with my report. And it's customary when one gives any presentation to start with acknowledging the main players that actually contributed significantly to whatever will be presented. So I would like to start with a heartfelt thank you to the Scientific Organizing Committee and anyone and everyone who has been involved with the spectroscopy workshop. I know that some of you have been there. I hope you enjoyed the content. We have 12 teachers from all over the US actually taking in knowledge and bringing it back to their students at some point. We have lots of notes on how to make it even better in future years. But I'm really grateful for the work of Ken Hudson, Bob Barrington, Bob Backheim, Francois Cochard, and Woody Sims, who actually put in a lot of work to not only invite and put together the scientific program, but actually work out the mechanics of how this workshop was working. Of course, a big thanks to the AAVSO staff. An organization's most powerful and most valuable asset is the people who work in there, the people who are actually dedicating most of their waking hours serving the organization. And I have to tell you that the individuals, my colleagues at headquarters, are going above and beyond, even in their non-waking hours, thinking about how the AAVSO is going to be optimized, how they can do their work much better. So I would like to present the AAVSO, our team at headquarters. Bert Pablo, stand up. Who is our staff astronomer. He is in charge of one of the most tricky tasks that we have at headquarters, our IT and infrastructure. Not only making sure that best practices are being followed when it comes to safeguarding our databases, enhancing our tools, making sure that everything is safe, secure. Cybersecurity is huge nowadays. but also making sure that progress is being made in our development of new tools, new software, etc. And on the side, he's actually trying to do research, that thing. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Bert. By the way, if you're interested in heartbeat stars, ask Bert. He is your specialist. Elizabeth Wogan. Elizabeth. Most of you know Elizabeth as a long-term staff member at the AAVSO. She's one of the most remarkable individuals I've had the pleasure of working with. She is focusing on alerts, campaigns, member science, and things like that. But also, she is focusing on smaller programs, smaller projects that are necessary to be completed in a timely manner. And we're going to talk about her work a little bit later when we talk about our headquarters moves. But Elizabeth has been with us for 43 years? 42 years, sorry. It's 42, which is remarkable for a tenure of an individual, and it showcases loyalty. So alongside Elizabeth, Sarah. Where's Sarah Beck? Sarah Beck, who started as a technical assistant. Now she's our left and right hand when it comes to operations, acknowledgement of observers, help desk. Questions go to Sarah, and she's involved in lots of small IT projects. Mind you, what I'm telling you is just an outline of the main duties of staff. If I was to actually tell you exactly what they're doing, we would be talking until tonight. So they're doing a lot of things. And of course, Sebastian Otero, who I hope is online. You know Sebastian from VSX, so he works with the volunteer team to curate this database that has more than 2 million stars cataloged right now, the super catalog. But also Sebastian is working very actively with our mentoring program, which is a key aspect and key benefit for our members. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Kathy Spire, the head of our operations team. Just think about any business or organization or associations you're involved with, and what kind of operation needs it might need. I'm going to leave it at that. So Kathy's in charge of that. She's keeping us healthy, and she's making sure that everything works well at headquarters while we play science. So we're really grateful for that. Lindsay Ward. Lindsay, oh my goodness, she has so many eggs in the air all the time, she doesn't let anything fall down and break. Apart from working on administrative tasks, Lindsay is our communication manager. She's the person who makes sure that the AAVSO's brand is going out and communicate with our membership, but also she's managing the ambassador program, which is the most fun project that we have at the AAVSO. This year, we actually engaged Lauren Harrington. Where's Lauren? Please, our new superstar, to run the online events that we have at the AAVSO. So if you have attended any of our workshops or any of our how-to hours, Lauren was a person who was up front and center and actually working behind the scenes to invite individuals, make sure that they have all their needs when it comes to PowerPoint's presentation. And of course, Lindsay is helping very closely with that. So we're very grateful to have her in our team. And last but definitely not least, Mike Saladiga. Oh my gosh, Mike is trying to retire. He's been trying to retire for how many years? We can't let him go. So Mike is actually working on the journal of the AAVSO. He's a manager of our journal, very closely with Nancy and Elizabeth to actually bring you the content that, and make sure that the content actually is of the quality that we need to present it in a peer-reviewed journal and disseminate it to the rest of the astronomical community. And of course, our leadership team, our board and committees. Of course, you can see all the names there, naturally. But it takes a village, right? And not only that, a group of volunteers. You can read every name from there, of course. But my point here, no, you cannot read every name. But my point here is that it does take a village. It takes a huge group of volunteers to make this happen. And just highlighting some of the volunteer teams that we have helping us at headquarters, we're talking about The ambassadors are volunteers. The webinar and how-to hours presenters, and actually those who presented at the workshop 2 days ago, JVSO, mentors, observing sections, variable star index teams, VSX, chart sequences, choice instructors, data validation teams, software development support, observing manuals, translators, BSM, and I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting more. So there's a lot of individuals who are playing a very critical role to run the day-to-day operations of the AAVSO, and actually they're key players in providing you the resources that we're providing, and of course our observers. Again, of course you can read all the teeny tiny names. The point here is that there's a huge group of individuals who are working hard and dedicating their own time, their own instruments, their own equipment to provide data and enrich our databases, and we're very, very grateful for them. So 110 years. You know, an anniversary is always a good place to pause and take stock, appreciate where we started, celebrate our accomplishments, and look forward to our future. It's also time to make critical decisions for the organization and strategize wisely our way forward. This is my favorite slide, actually, of all. This is a copy of the corporation of the organization, the announcement of the organization as a corporation that Gordon Myers actually found somehow, somewhere, and shared with us last year. And it says that the corporation is constituted for the purpose of the promotion of variable star astronomy and kindred objects. Just think about it, right? Back in 1911, our forefathers had the foresight to appreciate that there are more aspects of variability in the universe other than stellar variability, and they wanted to make sure that our community is positioned so that it would actually be part of this kind of cutting-edge science. So this is pretty much the charge that they gave us. Now we are a truly international community. We have more than 7,000 email addresses in our list, and we're communicating with those individuals. We have people from all over the world, which actually translates that we have a very diverse community. This translates to serving people with different needs, different background, different professional preparation, different habits and cultural background as well, who are united under the international umbrella of astronomy. We need to keep reminding ourselves that we're not acting in a silo. It's not just Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's the whole world we're communicating with, and we are actually engaged with. So last year, we presented our 2020 strategic plan, introducing the 3 focal points of our work, and we made some key commitments to you, our community. We realize that everything that we do, we need to be accountable, and we need to report our actual progress. So today, I will report on this progress, and I would like to discuss some of the steps that we're taking to move forward over the next couple of years. And I'd like to remind you what was in that strategic plan. So, for those who don't know, I am Greek. I was born and raised in Greece. I came here in the US last millennium for graduate school. So for me, I want to envision the AAVSO as a Greek temple. This is the Parthenon of the AAVSO, at the very top of which is our mission. Our mission is to enable anyone, anywhere, to participate in scientific discovery through variable star astronomy. And this is pretty much our charge. Everything that we do needs to fit under the mission, right? From there on, the temple has 5 main pillars: our science, our community, our technology, operation, and finances. And at the very foundation of this structure is our long history, which is actually a guarantee of quality, if you wish. It's our brand. It's where we started from. It's all the progress that we've made so far, and our core values, which reflect the principles guiding us in the future. So I would like to address each of the pillars of this temple one by one, starting with advancing science. At the very heart of the AAVSO's work, at the very core of what we're doing is our scientific work. We aspire to continue being a key resource for researchers worldwide. We aspire to provide the necessary data for work for researchers worldwide. And I'm saying researchers, not just professional astronomers. Anyone who is interested in pursuing a research project, a project using data, should actually be able to come to us and find what they need in order to actually do their work. And what does this translate to is, starting with curating our databases. We have 5 main databases right now. Other than the AID, which is our photometry database, we have a spectroscopy database, exoplanet database, solar database, and VSX. And we have a lot of smaller, of other databases that are not too upfront and center, but we are making sure that we continue enhancing those databases, we maintain them, we secure them, and we focus on quality. So what I'm presenting here is statistics on just 3 of those databases, just to showcase how they work. We have more than 46 million data points in the photometry database alone, which is actually quite impressive. We're increasing actually by 2 million data points every year. We have, actually this number is behind. We have more than 8,000 fully validated spectra in the spectroscopy database of all types of variable stars. And we have 654 exoplanet transits, and I'm sure that that number has increased, all validated again in our exoplanet database. And this number is actually increasing quite rapidly as this program is taking off. What I find quite interesting is this showcases the observing modes of individuals who are enriching our photometry database. And you don't really have to read those numbers, but with blue is 2019. I'm showcasing data for 3 different years. Blue is 2019, orange is 2020, and gray is 2021. The first column is visual observers who actually look through an eyepiece to measure brightness changes of stars. Second comes CCD observers who are using digital cameras in order to acquire data. DSLR observers, PEP, and other. And from this diagram, what really impresses me is the PEP observers. We started with 13 in 2019, 14 in 2020, and 16 in 2021. This is what I call the Betelgeuse effect. But how many PEP photoelectric photometers exist out there? And this is all technology. This is something that you really have to dig into people's, universities or institutions' basements to find. But there's a lot of interest for this particular technique and provides very accurate data on really bright stars. And we're really grateful for individuals who are doing this work. It's a painful work. We also foster partnerships with key programs, professional collaboration. Our long-time collaboration with TESS has evolved to JPL's Exoplanet Watch, and you're going to hear more about it today. We initiated actually a collaboration with the SNOOS team. I'm not going to tell you more about their work because there's a presentation coming up, but the main idea is to capture the next bright supernova in our galaxy right after it goes off. So that would be fun. And of course, you heard Tom's presentation yesterday about our recent collaboration with Unistellar, and there's a lot of promise going on in this collaboration. But also, we introduced 2 citizen science projects, which are part of the research projects we recommend to individuals who don't have access to data or they just prefer to actually analyze or play with data online. This is Citizen Assassin, a collaboration with the Assassin team, classify light curves of variable stars. And the Zwicky Chemical Factory, which is actually classifying supernova spectra. So we're helping our colleagues, both at Assassin and Zwicky, providing this kind of opportunity. And this is also an opportunity for students to get a little bit more involved with research. Now, for us, one way to measure impact is through the number of scientific publications that don't depend on us, right, that come out in the scientific literature. And this is a graph that is being provided by NASA ADS's service, and it showcases the number of refereed and non-refereed manuscripts that is being published in the literature. Blue is refereed, green is non-refereed. The years here, just 10 years, from 2011 to 2021, which is not completed yet. So in 2021, so far, the AAVSO appeared in 531 manuscripts, more than half of which are in refereed manuscripts, refereed journals. So I guess we're doing well. People are actually using our data and they're publishing their science with the AAVSO brand in them. So this is something that we are really celebrating, we're really very proud of. Of course, we focus on our observers. We enhance their skills through a variety of programs, training material, courses, workshops, discussion forums, webinars. We are continuing to renew and grow our collection of manuals, and not only the manuals themselves, but also improving their quality and try to translate them in as many languages as we can so that they reach out to individuals in a language they're familiar with, as opposed to English. English is not the first language on the planet, right? We continue offering choice courses. Actually, some of them have professional astronomers as instructors. I'm very grateful for this collaboration. We offer a very active help desk at headquarters. Elizabeth, Sarah, Bert, everybody pretty much, Sebastian, everyone is involved in this particular task. Any questions that come at headquarters are being answered within a couple of days, or phone calls. People still call at headquarters and ask questions, which is really wonderful to be able to help people on an individual basis based on their own personal needs. We continue offering our webinar series, but we actually added a how-to hour, which is actually introducing specific practical aspects of observational astronomy to individuals who just want to focus a little bit more. For example, hey, you bought a new CCD camera. You have two choices. Either this CCD camera is becoming a really very expensive paperweight, or you use it, but how do you get started? So one of the how-to hours address that. And of course, we are enhancing our peer mentoring program. Sebastian has been amazing in actually engaging new mentors based on the needs of our community. And actually, I would like to share with you these two plots that showcase pretty much how our mentoring program is going. I'm focusing on just 3 years. Here, you see mentor requests. So there, can we bring it loud down, please? For those of us who are vertically challenged. So what you see here is with blue, the active mentors, and with orange, the mentor requests that we get at headquarters. Every single mentor request is finding a mentor, which actually means that more than one mentors have multiple mentees. But it's been so active, and it's increasing in activity with time, that we're very grateful for the volunteer work of those mentors. And by the way, if you would like to become a mentor, please let us know. What I show here is the need, the request, the subject matter that people are requesting when it comes to the mentor program for 3 different years. So we have CCD, visual, CMOS, DSLR, PEP, but also spectroscopy, data mining, solar, remote observing, and paper writing. So we're expanding the mentor types that we have based on requests that we have from our mentees. And it's very interesting to see what people need help with. So if you think that you fit in any of those categories, or you have expertise in something that is relevant to our work, please come to us as a mentor. We really appreciate more. And of course, you heard all about the journal. What I love about this journal is that it solves the problem of all astronomers on the planet where they have one tiny, nice, great, fantastic result, but they cannot write a full-fledged paper to publicize it with to the community. I have a black hole of unpublished results at home. It's impossible. You cannot write a big AJ manuscript, but this is a way of actually publishing this one result and put it out there for researchers in the future to use it for their own work. So this is how science works, right? We find something, we share it with the world, and then everybody else is using that and keep going forward. Second commitment, build a diverse community supporting the AAVSO's mission and value. The AAVSO superpower actually is this active and enthusiastic international community. So our commitment is to enhance it, build it up, bring it together, and make sure that they all work together to promote the AAVSO mission. And the first thing that we're looking at usually when it comes, or one of the ways that we are engaged in our community is through our membership. Now, what you see here is a histogram that showcases membership growth with time. This is 2020. In 2020, we closed the year with 1,480 members. As of November 1st, in 2021, we have 1,438 members. And because we like comparing apples to apples, last year, same time, 2020, we had 1,405 members. So we are ahead. And let's see how the year ends, actually. Really, really hopeful. For us, membership means that people are in our corner. People really appreciate our work. And not only appreciate our work, they really want to support it. And they feel proud being part of the organization. What I also find very interesting is this metric. So what I'm showcasing here is, with respect to our observers, how many are members and how many are not. So this graph here talks about observers in the International Photometric Database, the one on the right. So with blue are the members, and with orange are the non-members. And this is just for the last year, 2021. Isn't it interesting? So most of our visual observers are non-members. Our CCD observers are half and half. Our DSLR observers, sort of half and half. So what this tells me, and you know, the left-hand side plot, we show the equivalent for sunspot observers, for solar observers. So what this tells me is that people are paying membership every year without the intent of submitting data that year. And this is really encouraging for us because it shows that people really appreciate our work and they really want to support it, not necessarily because they were using a piece of software or they're just submitting data to the database. Let's continue with our observing sections. We had observing section roundtables yesterday. We're going to have those observing section roundtables today. We're trying to provide support to these observing sections, make sure they grow. Bert actually is in charge of bringing those observing sections together, building a community amongst observing section leaders with the help of Sarah. I can't see here, so with the help of Sarah at headquarters, and make sure that people's needs, enhancing of web pages, providing links and tools, et cetera, are being satisfied, so that the observing sections themselves are lively and they provide an avenue for research. Also, specific observing sections are involved in key projects at the AAVSO, and they're driving those. For example, the exoplanet observing section, led by Dennis Conti, is up front and center when it comes to our collaboration with Exoplanet Watch. And you're going to hear more. And the SNOOS, the high energy and long period variables observing section is very involved with the SNOOS project. So this is a way for us to actually connect with professional astronomical projects and actually build a community, right, to do research, building collaborations. You heard more about the ambassador programs. This is our pride and joy at the AAVSO. Lindsay's managing these programs. I hope that you enjoyed the symposium yesterday. They're inspiring individuals from all over the world. And pretty much they do anything that you can imagine a person who is interested in variable stars doing, from research to outreach to creating content for the AAVSO. Some of them actually created very interesting beginners type YouTube videos for introduction of science to individuals who just don't know what a variable star is. They're afraid to get started because it's difficult. So breaking down barriers, discussing what the gist of the science is and how you can get started through the AAVSO. It's actually a really wonderful group of individuals, some of which are here. So please talk to them about their activities. They will be very happy to give you more information about that. One of the key commitments that we made last year is that we wanted to make variable star astronomy more approachable to people. People who just don't know about variable stars. They wouldn't care to buy a telescope and do their work, but we want to actually open the field to beginners. And one of the ways that we did it was through this collaboration with Ball State University and the International Planetarium Society. The main idea, actually, those individuals work with planetaria. And what they really wanted is, for people who participate in a planetarium show, they go and visit. They wanted those individuals to do something after they leave, not just treat the planetarium show as a movie. When you go, you watch it, check, go. For us, we wanted to reach individuals who have families, individuals who are not, again, interested in taking data or doing research, but we wanted to get the variable star science out, what they are, where they are, can we see them, what can we do with them, and also just make them familiarize with the AAVSO. There are lots of people, lots of our neighbors here in Cambridge who don't know us. So pretty much this particular collaboration brings one constellation a month to the public. Within those constellations, we highlight one variable star. So here's Betelgeuse, the story behind Betelgeuse, here's Orion, the story behind the Great Hunter. And did you know that Betelgeuse is changing with time? And this is how it's doing it. And by the way, this is how you can go and do it yourself with your eyes. As simple as that. These are accompanied with videos that can be incorporated in a planetarium show and will be incorporated once they open. And also videos that you can just watch on your computer if you're interested. So there's very interesting graphics, really nice storytelling, etc. Of course, we continued our online presence. Our YouTube channel is pretty much amazing, so please go there. All our how-to hours, all our webinars are there. And actually, this is, for us, a way of reaching out to the international community. And we started doing a little bit more to make those videos accessible to people. So, for example, last year we offered lectures in, was it Spanish? In Spanish. And not only that, we introduced closed captioning and transcripts to our videos, not necessarily to reach the hearing impaired, but there are lots of individuals from all over the world for whom English is not the first language and don't necessarily feel comfortable listening to, or they don't absorb all the material listening to different accents on a YouTube video. So this is a way for us to make our content available, accessible to people worldwide. Number 3, our technical infrastructure. And boy, that's a task. There's a lot of work behind the scenes that's happening there. We started by launching our webpage, and actually we aspired to make it much more clean. Remember, our webpage is our calling card for anyone who just wants to get a flavor of the AAVSO. So it needs to translate our material in a way that your everyday person can understand. So it's much more visually appealing, much more modern. You can find all the key resources there. And of course, all our tools are connected with this webpage. But this is not all that we're doing. I would like to give you just a flavor of the behind-the-scenes work that we were doing this past year. All this goes to Bert's desk. So we're talking about enhancement of the AV spec of our spectroscopy database, security enhancements, spam filters. We're still fighting with spammers. We're finding different ways of actually throwing inappropriate content on our web pages and our forums. The AAVSO store was built from scratch, and that's because of the needs of Drupal, Django, whatever BCTs that we have there. We have an inward central repository of material that is being shared by staff and individuals who are working at headquarters. Some admin enhancements of the webpage to make our operations team's life a little bit easier. Alert notice app, this is in the working, so stay tuned for this year. We updating the VSP app, technical documentation, solar app. There's lots of things happening there, and they're all behind the scenes. So I just wanted you to appreciate it, so that's why I put it there. Number 4, increasing our operations efficiencies. And this is where it does take a village. So we do have a board of directors who are actually taking a look at the AAVSO from the stratosphere of the AAVSO, right? So they're looking at the big picture, making sure that we are following best practices, non-profit best practices, we're financially sane, we have the budget that we need and the resources that we need for all our needs. But from there on, we presented a structure, a committee structure last year that we thought would work better in order to facilitate not only the governance work, but also the work at headquarters, one by one. We have, how many? Do I know how to count? We have 5 different committees: executive, finance, investment, fundraising, and diversity, which are actually reporting to the board. But then we have a group of operational committees that are reporting to me, and they're helping with needs of the AAVSO that we just cannot afford to have staff for. So for example, the IT committee is overlooking our infrastructure and relevant needs and monitor progress of specific projects and actually make sure that we have a plan every time that we are launching any kind of new project or enhancing our infrastructure, etc. Marketing, popularize and showcase our work. Nowadays, there's a lot of noise that are covering the whole landscape. People just don't have time to browse and try to find their nonprofit. So how are we getting our brand out? How are we getting our content out? How do people know about Beetlejuice? Programs. This committee is looking into our programs and assess the program progress and efficiency. So for example, last year, one of the projects that they undertook is take a look at our webinars. Yes, we have these online things and people are happy about them, but do we have people attending? What are the comments that people are sending us? Is there follow-up on our YouTube video? Do people still watch them? Does it make sense for us, even financially, to continue them? I can tell you that the answer is yes to all of the above, but you know, we wanted to get a little bit of more focused ways of assessing our programs. Membership, ooh. You have to ask Richard Berry, who is the chair of our membership committee, on how difficult this task is. The main idea is to look into our membership and try to understand what brings people to the AAVSO as a paid member and how we can actually provide more services to those individuals so that they will remain members of the AAVSO. How we can expand our membership, actually. It's not a bad thing. And of course, our observing sections. Right now, we have like a hybrid of a committee. It's not exactly a committee. It's the group that is coming together and making sure that our observing sections are viable, are vital, are, what's the word I'm looking for? Are alive. Hey, use simple words. Our observing sections are actually a very key aspect of our research because it actually helps with different types of research focal areas at the AAVSO, variable stars, technology, and all kinds of things. So we want to make sure that we are all in sync of what's happening with the observing section. Observing section leaders are actually sharing information with each other. There are lots of collaborations happening in there, etc. So we have specifically an observing section leadership team that is working with that. And of course, improve interactions with volunteer teams. Every single operation committee here has staff members involved with them. Right now, about 30% of staff time is going to working with operation committees. They are supposed to enhance, or they're meant to enhance the work that we do at headquarters and help staff with their work. So as such, we are actually very actively engaged with those committees. Long-term financial stability. You heard from Bob Stevens that after painful negotiations and a lot of talking, we are reaching our 4% target of withdrawal from the endowment this year. It's actually, it was a target that we promised our membership about 3 to 4 years ago, right? So it's actually a good thing. And you know, for our long-term success, the AAVSO needs to become financially sound. Part of sustainability is financial sustainability, so that we don't actually squeeze the life out of our endowment. And if we need actually extra funds, we won't be able to have them in 20 years from now. Remember, we're supposed to live for another 110 years, right? So prudent spending was part of that. A little bit of luck with the stock market, very careful selection of our finance advisors, and we're almost there. Also, we're having all kinds of new fundraising initiatives. We're getting grants from NASA and NSF, but also we are approaching foundations. We got a $50,000 grant from the Moore Foundation to spend on a project of our choosing. That was the most bizarre award that I was ever awarded, but that showcased trust. Individuals in those foundations are looking at the AAVSO, they hear about the AAVSO, they know about our work, so they are willing to trust us with money in order to continue our work, enhance databases, et cetera, et cetera. So this fund is going to go to enhance the spectroscopy tools that we have in the spectroscopy database that really needs a little bit of tweaking. We're, of course, increasing marketing and trying to increase membership. Marketing, again, is so important in today's landscape in order to get things out. And by marketing, I don't talk about billboards, right? But make sure that articles about the AAVSO and our work is on magazines. Astronomy, Sky and Telescope, Technology Today. Ads about who we are and what we are offering are in those magazines, and actually encourage even our observing section leaders, observing section members to publish their work on behalf of the AAVSO in those magazines, those kind of outlets. Have a very strong social media presence. This is how you're actually creating noise around your programs. This is how people get to know you. And all we need is people to be curious, to click a link and go to our webpage and see who we are and what we're doing. We have fundraising campaigns. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, but we're actually looking for professional guidance and help with grant writing and with development in general. And this is where we are still in the trial and error process to identify the right people to be part of our team in order to enhance a little bit our foundation and our national grants and make sure that we understand how we can be more efficient in fundraising. So with that, let's move on to 2021. There are a couple of new initiatives that we're launching in 2021, and the first one is going to be a member benefit. We realize that our members are coming to us because they really like us, they want to support us, but we would like to give something very unique back to them. And this is what we call a webinar, a Superstar Astronomer series. Lauren's in charge of that. We are inviting really prominent researchers to actually give a presentation to our community and interact with our members virtually. So the individuals that we have secured so far, and there's some pending, we have Jill Tarter from the SETI Institute, who's going to actually open this series in January. Margarita Karowska, a very prominent AAVSO member who works on red supergiants. Jocelyn Bell Brunel. Who doesn't know Jocelyn Bell? She is the person who discovered pulsars and was stripped out, was denied a Nobel Prize because her thesis advisor got it. But Dame Jocelyn Bell Brunel is very known in the professional astronomical community for her work, not only in scientific work, but also being an advisor and mentor for women in sciences. We have Adam Rees, who is a Nobel laureate from the team that got the supernova, from the supernova team that got the physics Nobel Prize in 2009, I dare say. Michelle Thaler, people should know Michelle because she's a very prominent NASA figure. Chris Stanek, who hasn't heard about Assassin? He is the mastermind behind Assassin. So he'll talk about that. Alex Filipenko will talk about supernova, et cetera, et cetera. So our members will have the opportunity to interact with them virtually, ask questions, and hear a presentation that is specifically made for the AAVSO. Not only that, we're launching a new initiative of a Spanish language webinar series. So this is something that's going to be open to anyone, anywhere. And the main idea is, we need to reach people in the language that they understand. Spanish is the second most spoken language in the United States. And although we are complaining that we don't have many STEM majors that have a Hispanic or Latino background, we need to actually make steps in order to introduce science to those individuals, science to their families in a way that they feel comfortable communicating with. And not only that, positive role models. So Sebastian has been working on this initiative, and he's been inviting and engaging the who is who actually of the community, the professional astronomical community, individuals who are very proficient in Spanish to actually be part of this particular project. Now, there are lots of things that are happening at the AAVSO, and a very fair question is, how can you afford that? We talked about the reduction of the endowment, we're talking about prudent spending, and yet we're introducing new things, right? This is where sponsorships and donations become extremely important. This is where your donations are going to. So we are kicking off our annual campaign this year, and I think we're opening it today with our annual meeting. We're trying something different this year. We're trying an auction. Some of the items that we are auctioning actually are here. Does everybody know what this is? This is one of the Sloan Digital Sky Survey plates. This goes on a 2-meter telescope. Each little hole that you see is an object in the night sky. And pretty much what happens is that people map the part of the night sky they want to observe spectroscopically. In each little hole, you get a fiber, and that fiber directs light to a spectrograph. Each one of them are unique because they observe a very special set of objects. Not two are alike. And thanks to our board member, Karin Kinemuchi, we are offering 10 of them for auction here. Each one comes with its own story. Each object already has data on it. And actually, if you get one of those, you will be able to have access to the webpage, Sloan Digital Sky Survey webpage, see what objects are observed, and actually see the data, get access to the data if you care, some of them were offered at the meeting of the American Astronomical Society, and first day, every single plate, were sold. And people had to transfer them from Hawaii. Isn't it cool? I've seen lots of coffee tables made out of those. I have already placed my bid on one of those, so please do not bid on mine. But at the same time, it's something very unique that we would like to make available. Please remember, shipping and handling is involved, is included in the price that we have on our auction. So if you want to take a look at this, this is steel. This is not going anywhere. Also, we have a beautiful pair. Slide, please. Thank you. A beautiful pair of earrings, thanks to Dan Spire. with an astronomy theme. This is a comet, the comet tail. We have two wonderful prints. One is actually an original painting by, oh my goodness, Dave, I'm spacing out. What's the name? Ron Miller, who is actually an astro painter, very well known in the US, and also some prints of different universe kind of themes. Thanks to Unistellar, actually, we're having an EV scope. I'm bidding on that too. That is signed by Jill Tarter. Just for the signature, I'm bidding on that. And we have a group of books from our book collection at the AAVSO that belong in the personal collection of some of the really prominent members of the AAVSO. So take a look at the auction site. It's something that we're really test driving this year, and we're hoping that everything will be sold out. Yes, Sarah. That's not correct, thank you. So the earrings are meteorites. All right, we also start our main campaign, annual campaign, November 15. November 15 is my birthday, and yes, it's the most important day of the year. So our goal is $100,000 by March 31st. So please consider donating there as well. So with that, here's my clicker. I'd like to move to some final thoughts. I'm pretty sure you recognize this picture. Do we all know what it is? This is the pale blue dot picture of the Earth. It was first acquired by Voyager, the Voyager satellites, 30 years ago. And this is a follow-up. This is Cassini's version. So what you see here is Saturn at the foreground, and this teeny tiny itsy bitsy dot is the Earth. So the satellite moved backwards and took a picture of the Earth. This was inspired by Carl Sagan's 1994 book entitled The Blue Dot, A Vision to the Human Future in Space, where he writes, "Look again at that dot. That's here, that's us." And he goes on describing the Earth as a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. It sums up perfectly the profound perspective that is gained by the study of space, by the study of everything that we're doing. We live on a teeny tiny little planet, and no matter what, we're not living from this planet. The closest possible Earth-like planet that could harbor, perhaps, maybe, potentially, life is at least 25 trillion miles away. This is it. This is our planet, so we need to take care of it. But not only that, this picture gives us a very powerful realization that we're explorers, and there's a vastness of a universe ready for us to explore and understand. And we can do that from this little mote of dust in the middle of everywhere. So with that, I would like to thank you for your attention and ask if you have any questions for me at this point.
Well, Stella, that was an excellent report. You've accomplished a lot.
We accomplished a lot.
We, yes, as the members, have accomplished a lot. One thing I see that is really part of a lot of the committees, but is not called out, I would like to see more prominent, and that is education. So perhaps you might think about attaching education to programs in education, or marketing in education, because I think we want to make sure that members know that is a key component of our mission.
A key component of our mission is indeed providing training material for our observers and for individuals who are interested in getting started with astronomy. The members, the programs committee, their charge is to assess programs. So programs and education gets a little bit blurred here. It is a good suggestion. We can actually discuss at the board level on whether we want to add another operation committee. But with that in mind, I'm going to volunteer you to be the chair of that committee. So be careful what you're asking for. I'm joking, of course, but that is not, considering that we had 12 teachers coming at the spectroscopy workshop and the engagement we had with them, the interest there is to build a community around the databases and whatever else we're offering, that could be translated in something in a classroom at all levels of education. Perhaps we can actually consider that.
I have an online question, actually comments. First of all, Rich Roberts said he's looking forward to the Superstar lectures. And Barbara Harris says, I love the idea of the Superstar Astronomer Lecture Series. I think those lectures should be heavily advertised and offered only to AAVSO members as a way to attract new members to join.
So we are offering them only to AAVSO members this year. And where's Lindsay? Yes, and who else from the marketing committee is involved? We need to advertise them. Barbara is right. Any other questions?
Thanks, Stella. First, as someone who's new to AAVSO, I appreciate the really nice overview. I was really happy to see the Spanish webinar series and the efforts there. So I was wondering if you could say more about equity and inclusion efforts, particularly towards gender and underrepresented minority groups or diversity in AAVSO between members and non-members who participate.
So it's, as I mentioned, one of the targets, one of the pillars had to do with diversity. Diversity is central to what we're doing. And not only that, it's part of our mission. Anyone, anywhere. We need to be more equitable. It's a work in progress. It will always be a work in progress until we don't have to have a discussion of equity, inclusion, diversity, et cetera, because it becomes a part of our everyday experience. We have a diversity committee that is part of the board committees. And the reason why this is part of the board committees is because diversity is so central to what we're doing, what we will be doing, and what we want to do, where we want to reach, that committee reports directly to the board. We're making little steps. What we want to accomplish the upcoming year is understand why people become members of the AAVSO. Other than, they have equipment, they want to do research, they want to support a database, but when we're saying that, they see value in citizen science, what does that mean? And also how we can attract individuals from very diverse backgrounds to the AAVSO. One step is the Spanish language webinar. So again, Spanish is the second most spoken language in the United States. And we're talking about a workforce that is upcoming that does not have access to STEM education, or at least STEM education is kind of a barrier for them. So the main idea with this webinar is to translate or present one of those days, or present astronomy or astronomical concepts in a language that people understand, and in a way that we present them in other webinars as well. Again, accessibility means being able to participate in something, no matter where you are from or where you're at, in a way that makes you comfortable. So again, subtitles, transcripts in our YouTube presence is really very important for that. It's just one of the simple things that, Zoom webinars enable. You just turn it on. Having said that, Lindsay is putting a lot of work in the transcripts because sometimes your Zoom translator doesn't speak English. So we're doing more of that. Of course, we're open to connecting with communities worldwide. We have a lot of resources. Most of them are open to everyone, for free. And of course, we keep translating our manuals to languages. And for example, the Visual Observing Manual is translated to all major languages in the world. So again, ideas are very welcome. We want to do more. So with that, I would like to invite you guys at Unistellar and try to work together and try to push our content and push the world of astronomy to as many people all over the world. Yeah. All the questions.
I have a little bit more feedback here from the online. There's 49 people watching online, by the way, right now, and many of them are expressing interest in both the Spanish language webinars and the Superstar lectures.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a question from Paul N. I believe it's Paul Norris. But is there any data between the time from one joins AAVSO to a point where they do not renew?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Is there any data about the time from when, between the time from when one joins the AAVSO to a point where they do not renew?
We do have information on the individuals who don't renew their membership, yes. And actually a project that Elizabeth was very involved in is trying to reach out to those who have not renewed their membership, although they were long members of the AAVSO, and try to understand, it's like an exit interview, right? Try to understand how we could have made the AAVSO better for them to continue to become a member. And, you know, for better or worse, the answers that we heard summarized is more of a individuals don't have the financial capacity, so they moved in a different kind of financial situation, or individuals aging and they just cannot afford to be focused on the AAVSO and things like that. So it's not that, you know, they hate us and people just don't want to be part of the AAVSO. It's just that they decided to move to the Oort cloud further out. That's a geeky comment. So does this make sense? Yes. We can talk more about our future, our past, etc., but we have a little bit more to present as part of this session. So with that, can we move back to the presentation, please? And I would like to invite our president for his report. Forget about pointers here.
Thank you, Stella. That was a great report, great overview for what we've accomplished. And it is we, as Stella said. The thing, I'm going to put up a chart in a few minutes, but the number of people involved in making this organization successful is just amazing, and the staff, the support we get from the staff, and what they have done are what are enabling this all to happen. So a shout out really to everybody who's here, everybody who's been actively involved. Okay, I want to first do a couple of announcements. As you all know, each year we do the election for both the officers of the board itself and also new members of the board. Let me just actually, before I say that, I want to thank 3 board members who are rolling off the board. Bill Stein, right, who is here today, is rolling off the board this year. Bob Massey, who's I know he's online right now, but Bob is rolling off the board, as is Michael Cook. And all 3 of them have been very, very active, and I thank them for all of their work. So if I go to the next slide, get the slides back up. And they have the wrong, no, they've got it right. Okay, we had 4 versions of this because it kept getting mistyped. Okay, these are the officers for the board for the upcoming year. I'm stepping down. I'll be the past president, David Cowell, who is right up front. For those of you who don't know David, he's going to be the new board president. And Richard Barry, who many of you know from his AIP for Win, and if you don't know him there, you know him from all his activity here at AAVSO, is becoming the first vice president. And as Stella said, Bob Stevens and Chris Larson, here and there, are swapping jobs someday, probably not, but anyway. So those are the new officers for the upcoming year. And the election, okay. So these are the results from the election for new board members. All of these people have been actively involved in AAVSO over the years, so I think they'll be really good additions to the board. Sarah Ostrom-Willis, Dennis Conti, and Thomas Macaron. So all of those people will be on the board. We're looking forward to having them participate and enjoy our board meetings, which actually are quite enjoyable now. They can be long, they can be a lot of interesting discussions, but I think the board is really making a difference in influencing the future of the organization. I want to now go beyond the elections and just talk for a minute about, and we're going to do some awards here or certificates and thank people for their service. But I first just wanted to start with the long-time members. I think the only person who is here today on this chart is our treasurer, Bob Stevens. But all of these people have been members of AAVSO for an extended period of time. And that shows a lot of dedication, not just because they're members, and many of them have contributed, not just financially, but also with observations, and they've been involved for many, many years. So just, I guess, ask for a round of applause for some of our longtime members.
And actually, I think that some of you are here, so could you please stand up, those who have already gotten their pins? And Bob is going to get his pin today.
Good.
You get to pin him.
Is there a pin coming
Yes.
forward? Aha. Don't stick yourself, Bob.
Yes. Well, it's your job.
I
still
guarantee I'm not going to stick them,
You're president
because I'm going to
for
let him put it on himself.
7
I am
more
too
hours.
unstable to do something like stick a pin on a person's shirt. So there you go, Bob. Appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
Actually, I first joined in 1980 thanks to Bill Goff, but was one of those who let my membership lapse for a little bit as I was starting my accounting firm and getting married and blah, blah, blah. So, but I came back.
I am glad you did. You've been a major help, I know, ever since I've been on the board as treasurer, trying to help us solve our financial issues, which we certainly made significant progress too. Okay, next we want to do some awards, and Stella's going to come up and help me with this. If I can get the next slide up. These are the staff service awards. One of the things that Stella mentioned earlier, a lot of these people have been involved with the organization for a very, very long time. Stella's been here herself over 5 years, so I thought I'd first present Stella with her certificate, and then we can bring up the other staff members who are here. Stella?
5 years. I thought it was like 20. Thank you.
I really appreciate everything she's done, and I think that, I think that presentation was pretty impressive. I think it really captured a lot of not a lot, a great overview of what the organization is doing. Stella, would you like to come up and present the others?
Yes. So it is my privilege, actually, to present the staff awards to individuals who have been with us. Can I have a microphone? Thank you. Have been with us for a long, long time. And I would like to start with Elizabeth Wogan. Where's Elizabeth? She's not working. All right. This is the definition of dedication. Can I please present you with your 40th anniversary award? 40 years in one place, that's something that, people in my generation cannot exactly grasp. But thank you so much for all your work. You know something, one of those days, it doesn't have to be this. Wait for the podium. I'm going to collide with something. So thank you so much for your work. Thank you so much for being part of the AAVSO. Elizabeth is a long member, actually, of the AAVSO, and she was recruited by Janet Maddy, right? By Janet Maddy. So it's a pleasure and an honor to present you with your 40th anniversary award. Thank you. Thanks. The second one goes to Mike Saladiga. Can I get the slideshow, please? Thank you. Mike cannot be here with us today, but he's been serving for 35 years and counting on the AAVSO, so we have an award for him. Can I get Sarah Beck up, please? Sarah has been with us for more than 30 years, but it's a pleasure to give her her 30th anniversary award. Thank you so much for all your work, and thank you so much for actually leading the data quality team. We owe to Sarah that our databases are of the quality that is needed for research, among others. So it's an honor to present you with this award, and thank you again. Thanks. You know, Sebastian has been with us for more than 10 years, and we consider him a constant presence at the AAVSO. It feels that he's been with us since 1911, actually. But he is a very hard worker. He works from Argentina for the AAVSO. I hope he's online. Sebastian, thank you so much. You're awesome. And he's an integral part of our team, and it's a pleasure to actually present him for his 10th anniversary award, which is going to be sent to him. We couldn't bring individuals from outside the US here this year. So I wish he was here in person, but we couldn't do that. And last but definitely not least, Kathy Spire joined our team more than 5 years ago. Where's Kathy? And since then, we are very fortunate to actually enjoy an organization that runs smoothly so that we can actually focus on our scientific projects. So thank you so much for being with us, and thank you so much for all that you do at the AAVSO. Although it's not forward kind of looking, you're making us move forward. This is, you know, all the behind the scenes work that makes an organization what it is owned to the operations team. So thank you, Kathy. All right. With that, we're migrating, I don't know, yes, to awards, observing awards. Thank you, Lindsay. Okay, go ahead. Must be on, right?
No. Is it on now? Yeah, it's on now. Okay, obviously we don't have all of these people here, and but I would like to highlight, I believe we have on the chart the name of everyone who is present today to give an award to. You know, the 46 million observations. It came through a lot of hard work by a lot of people, and these people are represented here on the chart. And you can see total numbers: 33 visual observers, 7 depth observers, 18 DSLR. And is Greg here? I believe so. Greg?
So 10,000 DSLR observations, that's observed. That's impressive.
I need to sit down with you and talk about how you do that with the DSLR. From a CCD, I guess we're going to have to change the name of this, right? CCD, CMOS, digital camera. We'll figure out what we'll call it. But I'd like to ask Brian. Is Brian here? And Walt? I think Walt's here. I've seen Walt. Brian, would you like to come up? That's Walt. This is the other one.
No, this is Brian's. Oh.
I know you're here someplace.
Walt, yes.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
So Walt, 50,000 CCD observations.
75 now.
75 now. Okay, next year we're going to give you another one. Of course. All right.
Is Brian?
Is Brian?
Brian here? Is not here. Okay.
And Mr. Myers,
Okay.
who has his own.
I get one. So.
Yes, you get one for 600,000 observations.
Yep.
Here you are.
It's been fun. And Chris Larson, who really drives, and from everything I've seen, drives the solar section. Makes it as successful as it is, and every time I hear talk about it, I realize I should look at the sun once in a while.
You should. And you know, think about it. This is one star. You can take one observation per clear day. And he wasn't doing anything exciting for the last couple of years. Thank you.
But now it's back.
But it's
now
getting
it's
better.
back. 1,000 of solar observations. Thank you. Thank you. Switching to me.
Okay. Yep. You ready?
Click. Can we progress the slide?
Can you switch the slide, or is that? We have had our technical challenges this week for those of you who've been here the full time. Okay, special awards, go ahead.
All right, so here we transition to special awards. Two of those awards go to Dana Thompson and Jim Fox. If you don't know Dana Thompson and Jim Fox, they have been two amazing individuals to work with to begin with. But they have been critical for the planetarium project to move forward. Dana is the one who built all these beautiful 360 degree videos and videos that are online. She's the narrator, the one who built the script, etc. And Jim is the person who actually wrote the guides on variable stars. He did research on those to make sure that all of them that provide the right information at the right level, and he wrote these beautiful guides. I hope that Dana and Jim are online. Thank you so much for all your service and for all your work with this project. It's extremely valuable, and it's going to continue in the future. They cannot be here today with us, but let's thank them for that particular project. Also, Tim Crawford finally decided to retire from the sequences team. There's a lot of work that is happening behind the scenes. I keep saying that as a theme in this meeting. And one of them has to do with providing you with the information that you need as observers to actually do your work. The charts and sequence team is charged with providing sequences for visual observations and appropriate comparison stars for digital observations, so that our observers can compare their data for the variable star data with something that is appropriate, with a star that is appropriate, to actually provide good photometry. So Tim is retiring after more than 10 years, and he's been enormously important for that particular team. Team of individuals. So let's thank him once more for his service. He could not be here today, so he's going to receive his award remotely over the mail. Slide, please. There's one more individual I would like to honor and present an award to. You know, sometimes we know of the work of people, we know their tremendous impact to our community and their community, but we think, you know, they're always going to be around, we're going to give them a reward next year. Larry Crozel is one of those people, was one of those people, who have had a tremendous impact to his society, his community, and ours as well. I'm going to just read the citation that gives you just an idea of his work. He embraced and exemplified the joy of lifelong learning, not only as a planetarium performer, but as a dedicated solar observer for the AAVSO. Larry not only brought the universe to children, but viewed it with a childlike wonder himself. We lost Larry a little bit more than a year ago, and it was kind of a shock, as in, I can't imagine the AAVSO without Larry in it. So this award comes a little bit late to celebrate his impact, to celebrate his legacy, and his sister is here to receive it. So could you please come up here with me, please? Larry is one of the stars on heavens right now, so I'm going to present you with a star. And on behalf of everyone at the AAVSO, our gratitude. This is the citation that comes with the award. And again, thank you so much. So let's actually celebrate this. Thank you very much, thank you. She came all the way from Connecticut just for this. So thank you so much, Catherine, I appreciate it.
We would be so honored. Our family's very honored.
Justifiably. All right, so moving forward, you think we're done with the president? Haha. It's all yours.
Okay, actually, it says is it on? It is on. Okay.
No, the question
couple
is,
of updates. First on the building sale. And by the way, I know that there are always a question of where should an organization invest its money, and should it be in the stock market or in a building and real estate, and why did we sell the building? And there was a lot of discussion and really a lot of in-depth analysis, as Bob mentioned earlier today, between the CAP team that was working with us and then the board over the subsequent year. And we really felt that the easiest way I would say it is we wanted to convert a capital asset into some ongoing income to support the operations of the organization. And I think it was Ken, or maybe it was Mario. The question was, okay, what's the financial profile? And the thumb to the window version of this is we sold the property for $3.175 million. And that will basically all, once we get through some moving costs and that kind of thing, most of that will go right into the endowment. The thumb to the window number is, you assume the stock market's going to go up in the number over years, over time, 6 to 7% a year. You're going to withdraw the target at 4%, and the difference lets you offset inflation. So that's the very simple three kind of key numbers. So that's why we did it. And as Bob said, the actual closing is somewhere between April 1st and June 30th, depending upon some things that are going on with getting final city approval on the construction that is planned. But that's the quick background. Now, one of the big questions as we did this was, what about the archive? And we were very pleased, if we can get the next slide up, to tell you that it is all going to Harvard University archives, the whole thing. So it's actually going to be available to more people, more easily accessible. They're going to actually integrate it with their current archives so that some of the information about individuals is combined with other information that they have. So to us, this is really a win. I mean, it's a big win because of the availability of this information to a broader audience and the knowledge that it's not disappearing, that the archive material will be maintained indefinitely, as long as there's a Harvard around, and I figured that'll be a while. So, okay, the next slide. I just want to make some I want to make some closing comments about the last 3 years since I've been on the board. And then we went through this strategic planning process. And I first just wanted to tell you the amount of time and effort that the board members spent on this was not insignificant at all. I do not think I'm exaggerating to say it's 500 to 1,000 hours almost a person. The time they spent in different committee meetings. The thing that was amazing to me, those of you who've been involved with nonprofits, you have boards and you have committees, and maybe you get 50% attendance at board meetings, and maybe you get, part of those people to show up, that throughout the 3-year period of time, we'd have either 80, 90, or 100% attendance at virtually every meeting, and there was a period of time when we were doing a meeting a week. So there was a tremendous effort, and it's an effort of not just the board members, the staff, Stella, all of them were extensively involved, adding information and highlights, and many of you members were talked to get your perspectives on what was going on. Stella, I think we can go to the next slide. Well, I jumped ahead, but we'll go ahead and leave that slide up. Stella gave, I think, a really good overview. We really restructured how things are done in the organization, and with this committee structure, which really brings the board, volunteers, and the staff together in critical areas like marketing, like the IT strategy. All those the five committees that you went through are making a significant difference and continue to add to the success of the organization. So I don't want to repeat what she said, but what I want to go back to for just 2 or 3 minutes, where were we when we started this? And I don't know if you remember the first question we asked ourselves 3 years ago, but that first question was, are we even relevant? Has technology changed to the point where AAVSO no longer matters, that all sky surveys and space telescopes make what amateurs do, worthless, to be blunt. And we came out of that pretty quickly, fortunately, but realizing that there were more and more opportunities being created by the new technology that professionals use, but also equally, from our standpoint, the new technology that's available to amateurs. That, whether it's CCDs, CMOS, all the spectroscopy things, the 2-day workshop we just had, those things were really advancing what amateurs could do to where we can contribute more. And during the spectroscopy workshop the last 2 days, Rick Feinberg, a name that I think many of you know from AAS, gave a presentation. And he talked about really the same question. What is the role of the amateur community in astronomy research today? And I want to just highlight two points. Well, maybe the first one and the most important is they've had a committee at AAS studying this. They are announcing a new major effort to collaborate more between professionals and amateurs, and they are in the middle of putting together their plans. This committee report apparently came out about 2 or 3 months ago, but they are now putting together their strategy. Kevin Marvel, who, by the way, many of you know, was an avid AAVSO member and was on the board a few years ago. He is the head of AAS. He's the director of AAS. So they will be talking with us about how they would like to interact with us. So I see this as the other half of the handshake, right? AAVSO with a handout and AAS also with a handout. The other thing I wanted to comment on, also that first year, there was a debate about what do we call ourselves. Are we amateurs, or are we professionals, or are we non-professionals? We spun around the axis for a short while about that, and we finally, I think, to be honest, kind of gave up on it because it was too complicated to figure out what a simple answer would be. Rick, this is his chart or the left side of it here, his chart from the presentation that he gave. And I thought it boils down really as, I could get into what does the word amateur, what's it derived from, what's professional mean. You get all into these nuances. And he kind of said, you can talk about all that, but the bottom line is professionals, it's a livelihood they get paid for, and if you're an amateur, you don't get paid for it. And stop stop thinking of them as different levels of expertise, because there's a tremendous number of amateurs doing very, very phenomenal work, many of them members of AAVSO. And I thought that was interesting, and then he made the comment, he said, he is often asked, are you a professional or an amateur? And he just says yes. That's literally the way he answers it. He says, I'm not going to get into this. There is no intent for disrespect because somebody calls himself an amateur. So we're going to go ahead and keep that, not shy away from the word, but also hopefully convince everybody that that word is not, it's not derogatory, which is somehow how some people have seen it. So again, I just wrap this up saying this organization, we talked, it's lightheaded. We did what we did the other night. Okay, 110 years in the past. Is somebody going to be here in 21, 30, 110 years forward? I don't know. But I think we have things set up to where we can continue to make a significant impact on research, and that the organization is really pretty much getting close to being in a financially stable place where now what we want to do is raise more money from outside resources so that we can expand our programs, but we've got the basic elements of the financial plan under control. So I just want to thank all of you who are here. It is so nice to be able to see people in person. To the 49 or whatever it is people, if they're still online, good to see you virtually. I think that this meeting is going very well. I thank you for all of your efforts and time. Thank you very much.
With that, I would like us to have a short break. Please grab some coffee and come back. Professor Sarah Seeger is here for our first keynote of the day, and we're really looking forward to hear what she has to tell us. So, a breather, and we'll come back when?
In about 10-15 minutes.
10-15 minutes. 11:15. In somebody's time zone. Easter.